It's 232.
Shut up.
Beyond.
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 I don't like the way.
Beyond.
I don't like the way that.
Beyond.
I don't like the way that bounces off the walls now that they're wooden.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 440. The show
cold?
where the boys shout and make a noise, get me real worked up.
Andrew made a cool rudder
Oh,
noise.
this sounds horrible in here.
Sounded like a man boat.
Yeah, it sounds actively worse.
Yeah, so
we normally, if we sound weirder than usual, it's because for some reason someone came in and put up a bunch of plywood on the far side of our
No,
room,
they took down the egg crates.
Okay, well apparently it was plywood underneath that wall, so that's thrilling. Anyway, I'm Max Scoville. Joining me, Marty Sleva.
Hi, Max.
Brian Altano.
Brap.
And Andrew Goldfarb.
I miss Japan.
What?
I said I miss Japan.
Oh yeah, you guys went to Japan.
What about Mr. Japan?
Okay, yeah, all right. So let's get right into it because we're morally obligated to do so.
Yep.
More rumors have circulated about the PlayStation 4.5 4K, or now, as it's being called, the PlayStation Neo. What do we know, and why?
Newsboy Andrew, go.
Hey, so Giant Bomb obtained some documents for developers that are working with this thing. The codename for it is Neo, and it's really interesting in that Sony is very careful to not split the player base. So basically, according to these documents, Sony really wants people to... Every game will have a Neo mode, which in other words, a 4K mode, or a base mode where it can run on a normal PS4. The idea being that if you have a PS4, you buy games off a shelf the same way you would otherwise. There's still only one game available in the PSN store. Everything's the same, but depending on which system you have, you can get more out of it, basically.
Sure. So the demand for backwards compatibility is so great they built a second system so the PlayStation 4 can be backwards compatible with itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it.
Marty and I were talking about this earlier. Our rough guess would be that you buy a game, it's just one disc in the store. If you buy whatever, The Last of Us 2, it's going to be on
two
shelves.
SKUs. There's not going to be two prices.
But maybe when you put it in on the Neo, you can download like a 4K texture pack, or there's some kind of free component from the store that upgrades it to the new mode.
And what
Or
they've
it scales to your hardware, which if you've
Yeah.
ever played a PC game,
you just literally go into the options menu
Welcome
and
back
go to
settings.
Ultra.
Yeah, sure. And maybe it's grayed out if you can't run it.
Yeah,
or
and they
something.
very much said that, well, according to these, again, documents, rumored reports, that there's not going to be exclusive features. So it's not going to be like, oh, The Last of Us 2 on the PS Neo.
You can take off your shirt.
You can take off your shirt. No, that shirt's staying on both.
Yeah.
both. Or
Sorry.
it's just
unless
awesome
it's
both.
you can.
Yeah.
So hopefully that you can take your shirt off in The Last of Us 2.
And then also, the price wasn't in this document, but they said everything they've heard has been $399, which is really interesting. So that leads... There's a couple things to talk about, and one of them is I feel like the general response has been anger.
Yeah.
A majority of it has been anger because a lot of people feel like this is anti-early adopters or anti the 40 million people who have supported and made the PS4 one of the fastest selling consoles of all time.
yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part of that is because we're reading these stories and writing these stories and having these conversations in places where people probably already own a PS4, right? This isn't really for the like swing for the fences New York Times crowd at E3 when they're just like, they reach out with all over the world sort of being like we have our base, we get that, we know who we're preaching to the choir over here, but to get like, you know, like we've talked about them on the show before, like the sort of tech dads and stuff like that, people who are sort of kind of on the outside of like hardcore gaming, but they want the coolest thing. Anyone reading the story, anyone listening to the show, I'm guessing a large majority of people listening to the show own a PlayStation console already, most likely a PS4. You're probably reading this and going like, this sucks. I think this is like, it's hard to understand that this might not necessarily be for you.
Okay, so looping back to that, of those people, how many of them have 4K TVs? I don't have a 4K
Very
TV.
few.
Do you guys have? None of you
I
guys
think
have.
like
No,
three
that's-
people on our side of the office have 4K TVs.
Well, I think it's like a cart leading the horse kind of thing.
And all three of them are micro
I mean, it's future proofing, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's understanding that now if you go to Best Buy and you're like, I'd like to buy a nice brand new TV, that TV is probably going to be 4K.
Well, I'll ask. I'll reverse the question. When was the last time you guys bought a TV?
when I moved to San Francisco.
Yeah.
I've had it was 7 years, 8 years. Like,
So yeah, we're all due.
I mean, I don't think it's, for me, what I like about it is that it's theoretically, if all the PS4 games just work, if they're not splitting the player base, it's extending the generation, meaning, yeah, if you want to be in the bleeding edge, it does suck. If you, you know, if you're going to have to fork out another $400 like to stay on the bleeding edge, yeah, that's hard. But at the same time, like, if 4 years from now we're not getting a PS5 because the Neo is out and it's running better games and my old PS4 games still work, maybe that's a good thing.
I think you're nuts if you think this is delaying anything about a PS5. I don't think this is going to change anything about when this generation ends.
Sure.
I think this is just sort of a shift or a small evolution halfway through. And I agree with you. Like, I'm not mad at this. I don't even know if I'm going to get one. If I don't have a 4K TV, do I really care about this? Like, maybe I'll eventually get one. I'm totally fine with it until the moment a game comes out that is optimized for the PlayStation Neo and not my PS4, and when I am penalized, because I'm totally fine if a game runs just like Uncharted's probably going to run, or just like Bloodborne runs, but looks a little bit better on the Neo. I'm totally fine.
You guys made the joke about the PS4.5 exclusive features, right? And how there won't be any taking off the shirt and stuff like that. They say there won't be any, like taking off your shirt, but there will be. Like, there will just be inherently differences in those games. It's also like, this is a weird little anecdote, but when I used to work for GameSpy, which is like it was like a sort of like a sister company to IGN, or like a little baby IGN, mostly focused on PC gaming. It's like how I got in the industry. We had console channels on GameSpy, and we would get screenshots sent over from developers all the time that were basically their games running in the highest definition possible on PC, and they'd be like, here's our Xbox 360 screenshots, and we'd send them back and be like, not true.
Yeah.
That's physically impossible. That's not how that works. And they'd be like, no, we swear. And we're like, sorry, we're not running your screenshots on our site. You're getting into an area where a few years from now, you get a trailer or a batch of screens on a game, and you're like, oh, coming to PS4. Cool. Got it.
Yeah.
But what are you looking at?
I mean, look at the trickle down from like the Watch Dogs reveal to Watch Dogs on PS4 in action to what Watch Dogs look like on last gen.
Or running on high-end PCs, too. Like, even on the highest-end PC, we're already dealing with bull shots and bull videos.
And that's where the thing that confuses me, or not confuses me, but, like, the anger is surprising to me, I guess, because I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know that I will necessarily buy this, but the weird thing for me is so Jose just reviewed Hyrule Warriors Legends on 3DS, and it runs on a new 3DS or a regular 3DS. On new 3DS, it runs pretty well. On a regular 3DS, it like chugs and it's awful. And you look at Black Ops 3 on 360 PS3 versus PS4, where there's like nothing there, and they replaced all the tech stuff with washing
You actually
machines.
can't run that Hyrule Warriors game in 3D on the old 3DS.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
I guess
what?
that's what I don't like. I hope we don't get to that point where they're like, oh, it technically still runs, but it's like awful.
Yeah.
Like that's where if it gets to that point, then I agree with outrage, and it's like I get it because then you're forced into buying the new one.
So the largest argument I hear against this thing, and again, I'm going to side with Marty in that I'm kind of middle of the road on it. I'm sort of apathetic. Like, if it gets to a point, like I'm a bad measure of success for something like this, because I buy every console at launch. I buy everything at launch. I get excited for things like I love all that hubbaloo and all that garbage that comes around.
Hubbaloo?
Hubbaloo?
Hullabaloo.
Okay.
It's a Hebrew bread.
Hummus bubblegum platter.
So I'm down to trade in my PS4.
Yeah.
Like, I will totally, and that's one thing that I think everyone's leaving out here, is that this will also, like, this will broaden the market, because if you look at cameras or Apple products, there is very much that early adopter market, which they acknowledge. They know that's a thing, and people will always be trading in their still technically new thing for the newest thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that new thing is suddenly refurbished and it's available for.
So what I'm saying is that the apprehension towards that is stemming 100% from the fact that historically this has never been a thing we've had to do in console gaming. You mentioned products where we're like used to that by now, right? Like, you get a new phone every 2 years and it's no big deal. Your PC, you're constantly upgrading if you actually care about that kind of stuff. But consoles are like, hey man, when I bought a console, you told me there's going to be a 7-year life cycle or a 10-year life cycle.
And that's the advantage
which
over
is
PC.
Specifically something that Sony has been touting for the longest time. Like, their marketing campaign behind the PS2 and the PS3 was like, these are the decade-long consoles. So to kind of pull that rug out from under people, I kind of understand why they're upset.
It's also a weird thing where like 37 million PS4s have been sold in 2.5 years. Like, pretty much no matter what, I would be stunned if ever PS Neo hits that, right? Like, I think no matter what, there will always be more core PS4s out there than Neo. So it's like, even best case scenario, like, you're gonna have more people with the older hardware than the newer hardware.
So my thing is like, what is this? If this was coming from, so like Nintendo's launching a new console this year, right? Why are they doing it? Because the Wii U failed.
Yeah.
Why would Sony launch a
I
new console
cannot
when it's
fathom why they're doing it.
like it doesn't make any sense to me outside of being like we are strategically going for the pinnacle of tech people, gamers who want the best looking.
well,
thing.
and also
you don't
VR.
sell
I
40
think
million
it's-
consoles and then go like,
I honestly,
we're hurting.
I think VR is the big push for it because theoretically, I mean, we don't know obviously, but like the processor box that you're essentially paying for when you buy a PSVR, I guess the long-term plan would be if everyone's buying PS Neos from this point forward, and if they're that much more powerful, maybe down the road they can sell a PSVR for like $150, where you're literally just buying the headset and the console itself is capable of running VR
It just
games.
feels like you're splitting the conversation into Sony pieces by being like, here's this game on PS4, here's this game on PS4 VR, here's this game on PS4.5 VR.
Also, like when they show, it's going to be weird if they show God of War 4 at E3.
Yep.
Is it going to be running on the Neo? Is it going to be
That's what
running?
I'm
Is it
saying.
going to look like what it's going to look like?
Like,
at
what are we
home?
looking at? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
if you see that and they're like available for pre-order today, and you pre-order it, like, what are you getting at that point?
Also, are they like getting rid of? We were talking about this earlier. Are they getting rid of that excitement of what a game looks like at the start of a generation compared to what that developer could do at the end? Like Uncharted 1 compared to The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Or like what like a launch PS2 game like Kessen or The Bouncer looked like compared to like Kingdom Hearts 2 or Okami
Because
or
they're-
God of War 2.
They're strengths that are born from limitation.
Yeah.
There are
Yes.
people who their art is good because of the restrictions that were around it, and they have to think creatively as opposed to like being able to make whatever. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it's a lot of the sky is falling. I hate Sony. They screwed me over.
Yeah.
Thinking right now, we don't know what this is. Like, honestly, like
No.
I think Sony this generation especially has not made a misstep yet. I think as of right now, they're doing really well and they're being smart about what they're doing and they're listening to fans. So I would hope.
what about was Shuhei hit that deer with his car? Horrible.
It's a horrible
tragic.
accident.
No, so there was this NeoGAF thread the other day about Nintendo DS games running in HD through an emulator, and they're fascinating because once you remove all the hardware limitations of the DS, which was just like Vaseline smeared, incredibly low res, you started seeing that you're like, oh my god, this game had like 3D polygon character design and not sprites, and you thought they were all sprites because you're playing them on a 2.5-inch screen.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's anything at play with the PS4 where you're like, you're going to lift the veil and all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh, there was a beautiful game under there the whole time.
No, it's going to be like more grass.
Yeah.
Like less jagged edges.
Yeah.
It's like
more
we're
grass.
2.5 years
I
into
wanna
the
sit down in the
generation,
box.
and there's already gorgeous. Like, I'm not playing Bloodborne or Ratchet and Clank or seeing Uncharted and being like, man, I wish this looked better. It's like, no, that looks totally fine with me.
Dream
I think,
bigger,
I think
guess.
Bloodborne should have more grass. I think there's not enough grass in that game.
That's gonna be real sad, dead grass.
I can't wait to see how they message this. If this is going to be announced at E3, it's also like, who is going to buy a console between E3 and November if they announce this thing in June?
Also, like we're looking
Yeah.
at this being called PlayStation 4K, PlayStation 4.5, PlayStation Neo. What if it's just PlayStation 4 Slim? Like, what if they just kind of like they put
And
all
then
this
just
stuff,
phase out what we have now?
It's I mean, it's got all this stuff. Like, if they are sticking to their word and being like, okay, the bells and whistles, the 4K stuff is future proofing. It is bridging a gap between like another hardware generation, which is just displays and VR.
Yeah. And maybe it's just called the PlayStation 4. I mean, look at what the iPad did.
Exactly.
Where one
Yeah.
day they
The
were
new
just
iPad.
like, this is the iPad.
Yep.
And then we're quietly phasing out all the old models.
And it's even, I mean, that happens now. Like, I think we, like, throughout the life cycle of a generation, you slowly see bigger hard drives and everything else. Or then you even see, like, the Xbox 360 had, like, different chipsets, like, during all the Red Ring stuff. Like, they didn't make a big public campaign after it, out of it. But
Or they'll remove
the
ports.
hardcore users, like, looked for, like, oh, you want to buy one that says Jesper on the back because that one went Red Ring because it's a better...
They'll add or remove ports on a console without even make a big stinking
Yeah, I mean,
about it.
there were 3 PlayStation 1s. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I want to use a mod chip or whatever and play burn games.
I will be fascinated to
There's
see...
that weird Wii that doesn't play GameCube games.
Oh,
or
the
whatever.
Canadian
Like,
one,
what?
yeah. I'm super curious to see what this is and how they message it.
Because everything they're messaging so far for the past 3 years has been so on point. It's
I
been
know.
so good, and they haven't missed a single punch yet.
well, they
and so-
also haven't messaged this
No,
yet.
totally,
We're
yeah.
all completely reacting to
various
leaks and
reports
rumors,
that sometimes conflict each other and sometimes
So
don't.
I feel like this is something that whether it's happening soon or whether it's even happening at all, which it really feels like it's happening.
It's happening,
It's
yeah.
happening. This has to be messaged at E3 in some way.
Definitely.
And they have to handle it incredibly carefully because that's a room full of people who already own a PS4. who are clapping, waiting for the next big thing.
What if you bring out a celebrity to message it, like Fergie?
Like TV
Or Hoop
Shaun
Dog.
White?
Wait,
Or
Hoop
Ravi
Dog?
Drums?
Drums.
E3, the best celebrities in the world are back.
Wow.
Speaking of taking things and enhancing them,
I've got some great all-natural supplements that you're going to want to hear about, boys. Yeah, so we got a good topic here. Ratchet and Clank, if we didn't hit on this enough last week, is awesome. It is,
Yeah.
it is totally like that kind of like, I imagine it's kind of what it's like getting like LASIK when you're 90 years old and you're like, oh, I remember what the color blue looks
Seriously.
like.
Or it's like The Giver.
Yeah.
Or like Pleasantville.
Yeah, so it's a gorgeous, wonderful game that takes something old and familiar and just makes it beautiful.
It may be the best looking game on PS4
And it's
or
also
up there.
stupidly popular. Like my review did almost as well as the Dark Souls review. People just keep clicking on it. And
It did better than the
Wow.
Civil War review.
Yeah, it did better than the Captain America Civil War review.
All right.
And also, if you go to the Beyond group, like everyone is playing this game and everyone loves it.
It's hella good. It's a really good game.
Yeah.
Marvel pay you off for that one too?
They did.
So on that note, what are some other classic PlayStation games franchises we'd like to see, reinvigorated with this wonderful attention to detail?
Yeah, I feel like this.
I mean, Crash is
Crash
the first
Bandicoot
one.
is the correct answer.
Yeah. Yep. That's the first one that pops in my head
Yeah.
when you put this in the doc.
Yeah, I mean, that's the. I'm hoping that what Insomniac did here is sort of a roadmap for like, hey, instead of just doing the HD ports or whatever of PS2 games, let's think about how do we revitalize these series and keep like what made them special back in the day, but give them the 2016, 2017
Yeah, it's like
visual
FF7 remake, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess FF7 remake is one of those.
It's a
in
similar.
theory.
Yeah. It's a much broader idea, but
Yeah, but I mean, Crash has been teased for so long. And I feel like
that's
it
why
has
he's
to
so
happen
angry.
eventually.
That's why he
He's-
got those tribal tattoos, because after all that teasing, he needed a hard edge and a wallet chain.
I wasn't sure where we were going with hard.
I honestly Crash Bandicoot's a weird character because I don't know how you bring that guy back and still sort of maintain what made him so 90s, but also make him not look like a serial killer in jorts.
Yeah, I don't know what you do with Crash.
Yeah.
I like the idea of just, we talked about this on Up at Noon, I think, but I like the idea of just like taking a really realistic Bandicoot and it's just like, it's a game about being a Bandicoot. And you're like,
Side
does
note.
anybody know anything about Bandicoots? I think they probably eat snails.
In case you missed that episode of Up at Noon and you're on your phone right now, like look up actual, I don't know how you even do it, actual Bandicoot, like real life Bandicoot animal.
Yeah,
it
look up-
really looks nothing like Crash.
No, it looks
nothing
like
at
a-
all.
I
like
think you
a-
could just Google Bandicoot and you'd probably see it. You don't
I
have to
don't think
Google
so.
actual real life.
I feel
Bandicoot.
like Crash took over that SEO.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know, the Ratchet and Clank, like for some reason like they scaled to 2016 better. Like it's sort of like it's a goofy looking robot and a Lombax.
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 Yeah,
Yep.
with clothes.
Which
Which
is
is
like
like
cloaca.
Yeah.
Stop. What? A
Coccyx.
cloaca?
There it is. There's your one cloaca of the day. You're allowed to-
ColecoVision?
But Crash Bandicoot.
All right, adults in a room.
Farting in jeans. The Crash Bandicoot story.
But it's funny because Naughty Dog's never going to do this again. Like, Naughty Dog's never going to go back and
way.
make this. I mean, they don't even, do they own?
No,
Activision has Crash right now.
It went to like Vivendi, and then it went to Activision, and then it went to like Universal, and then
Like, I mean, I can
know.
see,
Yeah,
like,
no,
the-
War Inspector broke in and stole
Yeah.
the certificate and said you
I
own
could
Crash
see
Bandicoot.
like someone like Toys for Bob or like Traveler's Tales if you give them like I'd play like a Lego Crash game.
Yeah, I mean, or Spyro, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see.
that would be like a Mega Bloks Crash game.
Okay, let's make this completely easy for everybody. Since Naughty Dog is sophisticated and above telling a story about a monster in jorts, put a Crash Bandicoot skin into Uncharted 4.
That'd be awesome.
Let him hold
I
a
think
gun, let
that'd
him
be-
climb rocks, and help the old man.
I would love a serious cutscene in Uncharted 4 between, like, Nathan
He's holding like Elena in his arms as she dies.
Do you guys remember those old like the wonderful PlayStation ads where the guy in the mascot suit
Yeah.
and he'd go to like Nintendo headquarters and be like,
Yeah,
hey,
with-
I took a dump in your parking lot.
with, like, the megaphone.
That'd be
yeah.
a sick game. Is you have to be like the Crash Bandicoot reboot street team, and you're just this like horrible washed up man.
It's almost
and
like Bully. Like,
it's all photorealistic, and you're just like, you got any money?
Seriously, that's the only Crash Bandicoot I want. Is I want Uncharted 4 Crash Bandicoot skin.
It's
Yeah.
really weird. One of
the
the other
petition.
things I was thinking with this was Parappa.
Yeah.
Like,
hell yeah.
I feel like you could make a really smart rhythm game.
I want 8 Mile Parappa.
Yeah, there you go.
I want just he goes and has sex in a foundry or whatever.
what's that for me? Kyle?
Catches his mom chop Master Onion. Yeah. Burns down a building or whatever.
It's weird. It's weird to have a lady who makes spaghetti also hook up with an onion.
Yeah.
I got shot 9 times. That's my friend 50 Cent.
Other games I had on here aren't that old, but Loco Roco and Patapon. And less I want them to get the crash treatment or Ratchet treatment, more I just want them back.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to ever get them back.
It bums me out that Vita is obviously kind of flailing at the moment because like that's where I want a Patapon game.
Yeah, I know.
Like I don't want a console Patapon game.
I want a PSVR Lumines.
Yeah.
God.
Like something that's just like almost sort
I
of.
think it's called an aneurysm.
I want to buy drugs in the park. Worm on my head.
I think I'm going to leave the stove on but not light it so the gas fills up my house and I get a headache.
Can you put the trance in my eyes?
The trance. I also had Siphon Filter on here, which is that game. I mean, everyone was wondering if Sony Ben's working on this, but Shinobi this week tweeted that all these like cryptic devil things.
It was like Dead Ride. Here,
yeah, it seemed like it was an open world zombie motorcycle game.
So he tweeted.
Sounds friggin' crazy.
Where is it? Wait for it. Stall
waiting
for
for it.
time.
All right.
We're waiting for
I
it.
know. I was talking about this with Max yesterday.
Tweeted. So dead in all caps, dead scavenge we survive, don't in all caps, don't fear them, on metal and bikes we drive, ride in all caps, ride don't run, the apocalypse is good fun, hashtag dead don't ride, hashtag Sony Ben.
Yeah, and Shinobi is one of those Twitter dudes who's
like Warhammer
he's in the
64
know.
and-
Yeah.
All right. So that's exciting that those words were capitalized and stuff.
All right, you like motorcycles and
I like
scary
I like a
zombies.
motorcycle thing. I'm so sick of zombies, but if they're fun, if they're like having a fun time, if they're just like ride a motorcycle around and fight a thing and be like, all right,
Well, that's like you and I were talking yesterday about like how we kind of wish there was that alternate dimension video game industry where like the 90s just kept going. Like where you got stuff like Ultimate Surfer Cops.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point where that stuff is all nostalgic and people are kind of jumping back on it.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what Sony stuff I'd love to see make a comeback. I mean,
It's got to be handled like just perfectly. I think like Ratchet and Clank was just like it's just such a smart way of revitalizing something without completely rebooting it.
And it's also like Ratchet almost revitalized itself on the PS3 already with the
Exactly.
with that trilogy with the
And,
Kraken.
and that's why and that's what I like about this is it's taking what made the franchise great originally and what it's learned since then and just mushing it together. I think honestly that's hopefully what FF7 Remake is doing as well. It's taking like everything people like about Final Fantasy and all the iconic imagery, but like maybe adding some voice acting and better dialogue and making Cloud more interesting.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then
everyone-
splitting it into 4 games.
I mean, everyone likes to, gripe about like, oh, they went and changed something, but it's like with games you kind of have to, because like, I mean, every single menu in Final Fantasy VII is like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to do that? And you're like, I want to save my game. I need to save the game. Sorry,
That's fine. You're
had
being real cussy.
I had a lot of coffee.
Dan said to, it's fine.
Are we all
Dan
the
said we
same
could
amount
swear.
of coffee? You're cursing like a
No, I had like
salad.
3 Red Bulls earlier, and then I wrote a script that you were supposed to write while you were interviewing Key and Peele.
I don't know what to tell you. It's a weird
Speaking-
world.
Speaking of buying
Blessing.
drugs in the park, we had a
Nice.
cool release date announcement today.
Yeah, we sure did. Mafia 3 is coming out.
Speaking of Italy,
Mafia 3 is coming out October 9th.
So one of my favorite Mafia stories, when I was writing the very first rumor about Mafia 3 in 2012, I was looking around the room trying to find somebody who knew anything about Mafia because I was writing about it having never played it. And the only person next to me was Brian, who was my boss at the time. I was like, Brian, do you know anything about Mafia? And he stood up and yelled, "That's racist," and left the room.
yeah, that's why I had to stop being your boss because I put,
right. You probably
I put
would leave-
boxes.
Filed that HR report.
I put
and-
boxes of Tide on your feet and put cement and threw you in the East River. I don't know a damn thing about the Mafia.
I just learned so much there. I didn't know that they use boxes of Tide. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah. You make
I
they're
thought
basically
you'd use,
they're
like,
ocean
cat boxes
shoes
or something. I knew about
Yeah.
the cement. I just
Stone
didn't know
feet.
that Tide was
Ocean
like the
shoes.
go-to there.
Yeah. And
Does
when
it
you
work
want to
with
kill
whisks
somebody,
as well too, or is
you
it
could
any
do that.
detergent? Really,
It's a little smaller.
What do
Also-
you do with the detergent? Do you wash bloodstains or what's
Yeah,
This
you
game takes
clean
place in New Orleans.
Yeah, nothing to do with
Stars
any of
a-
this. Yeah.
African American man who came back from Vietnam.
The trailer is really good. This is the second time they've done a trailer that just really surprised me because I would never have expected to give a shit about this game.
Yeah.
But I super do.
Takes place in 1968. You play a Vietnam vet who comes back to a city called New Bordeaux, which is pretty much New Orleans.
Wait a minute. Then what video games are going to have classic stereotypes of Italian characters now?
Oh, don't worry.
Besides
all
dozens
of them.
of them.
I mean, the thing about this trailer that really got me is it feels so Rockstar. Like this feels like a new GTA trailer. Like it really they've captured that like kind of cinematic like film element idea, and I don't know. I'm really excited. This is probably, I think it was you I was talking to earlier. Like, I never watch an open world game trailer and care about the story. I'm usually like, oh, that's cool.
Incredible.
I can't wait to explore that city. But like for this one, I'm like, oh, like I don't even care about the action stuff. I think the story looks legitimately.
Well, if you think about it, we haven't really had like an open world game in a city in a while.
We haven't had a GTA, or at least modernized GTA, honestly.
Yeah, nothing GTA. Watch Dogs took the year off. Who else really makes open world city games? Like Saints Row has been hiding for a while.
Yeah.
And even those are like really super goofy.
Yeah.
But you get Assassin's Creed games, but it's all about like a guy jumping off a roof.
Enchanté, welcome to Gay Paris. This time
he stabbed me again.
This time you have an umbrella that can be used as a hang glider.
I will chase him for 30 seconds and I forgot what he looks
He says the guy who gets upset when people make fun of Italians.
Hide inside the haystack, otherwise you'll be in trouble with the constable. I'm
quick, hide in the big pot of sauce. No one will find us in there.
If you feed this dog a baguette, they will stop chasing you because you are a kind citizen feeding the dog. So like I've been kind of tracking this game. I never played the Mafia games prior. I think because I don't really care about like mob movies. Like I know that The Godfather's amazing, but it never grabbed me. And this looks more interesting because I am really fascinated by like I've been saying a while like I want to see an open world game in like the 1960s or 70s, and it's what 1968 for this one.
Yeah, 68.
Like, that's an interesting time period.
Soundtrack is supposed to be amazing.
Yeah. So the gameplay that we've seen so far, we had like 45 seconds of gameplay at like Gamescom last year. The driving looks really weirdly arcadey, and I don't know how I feel about that. Like if it's going to be actually fun when you're doing it.
Evidently, it is fun. Yeah, Ryan
like
McCaffrey
that.
played the game for 2 hours. We have his video preview up on the site, and he said the driving was actually really cool. And it does a cool thing where if you set a waypoint, instead of it like appearing as arrows in the sky or like weird things on the ground, there are street signs that exist in the world that are sort of illuminated to where it'll be like
cool.
a street sign that catches your eye that tells you where to make the
Until
right.
you smash into it and knock it down.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
That's really cool. I always thought like the driving in GTA 4 and to a way less extent GTA 5 was a little not like it's not like in simulation territory at all, but it's a little like kind of looser than just like an arcade driving game. So I actually prefer
it also
something to be kind of
I meant like arcadey in the sense that like there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, like a lot of UI elements, and it's sort of like you a bunch of bad guys pull in front of you and they all get like Plumb Bob sim icons above their heads, and you're like, okay, like I don't. That kind of takes me out of this beautifully realized world.
There's a bunch of weird. I think it was GTA 4, not 5. There are a bunch of weird videos where someone like tries to obey the rules of traffic, like tries to stop at traffic lights and like go around the city, and you just can't because like eventually there's always something that'll get in your way, or there's like cars that'll just push into each other or push you off the road.
It seems like Mafia 3 does have this cool, almost like a quasi-nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor, where you go after low-level guys, and there's a ripple effect that goes up the chain,
which is so cool.
Towards like local mob bosses, and like when you take over an area, you have 3 lieutenants, and you have to choose which lieutenant gets to take over that neighborhood, and who you choose pisses off the other 2. So it almost seems like the Playboy X thing from.
Did any of you guys play the Godfather game?
Yeah. I like that.
That was a really good game.
Super good ideas. Yeah.
Like I was not expecting that to be as cool as it was, but it was like way more open world than like pretty much any GTA game. Even to this day, like you could walk into any local business and beat the hell out of the guy working there and be like, "I'm coming back in a week for my money," and all of a sudden, like you extorted him and he would pay you forever.
Yeah.
He would just keep doing haircuts and pay you every time for like, and you just knock over a bunch of barbershops and laundromats, and then you'd own a whole area, and there'd just be like a whole part of town of people afraid of you sending you money every week. I mean, this is brilliant. I love this.
I really hope that. Like that's more exciting to me than the map is twice as big as the previous game. Like that stuff, like the interactivity of it is way more exciting to me.
Yeah,
and I think like that Shadow Mordor system, like I hope that's in more games.
Yeah.
I really want more games to steal that because it's so smart.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to touch on here, which is interesting, the rumored Red Dead 2 map leaked, and in the bottom corner is New Bordeaux as one of the areas in
like
the game.
150 years ago.
Which is like super cool. The idea of like almost this like small shared cinematic universe thing where like you like if there's landmarks from one game that sort of appear in the other.
And I would love if
way,
it's as subtle as just that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want it to be like a wink wink. It's the relatives of blah, blah. Like I hope it's just like a real subtle like kind of connected universe thing.
That's cool.
Like Douglas Sirk.
Do we get any did Rockstar comment on that at all, or did
No.
they just kind of put
I mean, there's no, that's just a rumor right now.
Okay.
But we'll see.
So other thing we got this morning was Pyre. That's from the guys who did Bastion. That's Supergiant Games.
Yep,
Bastion
and
and Transistor.
Yeah.
I want to see Supercharger for some reason, which shows a lot about how I don't understand cars or electronics, I guess.
Yeah, it's coming 2017 to PS4 and PC, just like Transistor. And the trailer showcased it's sort of a similar, like really pretty hand-drawn animated style with evocative music. And it seemed like it was this game about these three like wanderers who are going across the countryside, and you have this hub that's sort of your wagon as you travel from place to place. And there's quick snippets of combat that seemed like an overhead action tactical thing, almost similar to Transistor. I know we felt a little bit different. Like I loved the trailer, and I know you guys were sort of a little bit lukewarm on it.
Actually, like I love a lot of the sort of like concept and establishing art around it, and then once it actually got to the gameplay, I was like, oh, this is like nothing. Like it wasn't bad by any means.
Sure.
I was just like, I need to see more to really understand how this works.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it's like a party RPG, like you mentioned.
I mean,
like,
so it's like
So is it
everything
multiplayer?
happens super quick. So we don't know, but we're gonna know soon because
Okay.
we're gonna be playing the game Friday morning at PAX.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yay, PAX.
Yeah. So a bunch of us will be at PAX over the weekend. Max will be there.
Yeah.
I'll be
Andrew
there.
will be there. I'll be there. Alana will be there.
Damon.
Damon will be there.
Ryan.
When's our
Just
panel?
stop.
We've got an IGN panel. When is that?
Yeah, so we have an IGN panel at 7 p.m. on Saturday, 7 to 8 p.m. I believe it's at the Serpent Theater. We'll all be there for that. And then we have meetups on Thursday night as well as Saturday night, and you can go. We'll put the link in the episode.
I'm on a
right
panel that I forgot when it is.
It's on Saturday at some point.
It's on
about
Saturday
video.
at some point. It's called
Saturday
How
at,
Does
like,
Video Work? I'm on that with Anthony Carboni, Andrea Renee, Neha from GameSpot, and this young fella, this up-and-coming YouTuber. His name is Gregory Miller.
No one
Yeah.
knows who that is.
Damn, that's
he's,
a killer panel.
He does a lot of unboxings of snack foods and so forth, and he's got a whole lot
He
of
wears
a lot of
weird
friends.
midriff shirts and yells about fog
Wears a lot
machines.
of he wears overalls and has a
Yep.
big straw hat. He wears
He's,
everywhere he goes.
To
Gregory
be
little
honest,
Miller.
I'm
wiener
not
dog.
100% sure that we're talking about the same person.
I'm completely made up most of that.
Yeah.
What else we got? We got I Am Setsuna, Outlast 2, Abzu, PSVR, obviously. So bring some hand sanitizer and face wipes for your staff and
Yeah,
friends.
so we'll
You'll
be
probably
going-
Free pink eye for all.
Yeah, aside from Pyre, we'll be going on I Am Setsuna's Square's sort of throwback to Chrono Trigger that got revealed for the West at GDC. So we'll be playing that for an hour. Outlast 2, Abzu, which is by some of the folks who made Journey.
That's that
Super
scuba
pretty.
diving game.
Yeah, which is super
I did
pretty.
I did a really weird interview about that at E3 last year, and that's like not the kind of game where you can be like, "So what's our motivation here?" He's just sort of like, "Yeah, man, you're just going scuba diving." And I'm like, "So are those sharks enemies?" And he's like, "Nah, they're kind of just hanging out." And I'm like, "Okay." He didn't sound like that, but
Yeah.
I mean, what he was saying did.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the funniest things about working at IGN to get a little inside baseball sometimes. It's like you'll host a thing for like an interview during like E3 or Comic-Con, and like the crane camera comes and it's like dun, 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 blah blah blah, brought to you by Speed Stick. Okay, hey, what's up guys? It's me, Brian. I'm here with John. He's working on this new game. What's this about? My divorce.
Yeah.
My wife left and I decided to make a real-time pool game for the 3DS. Oh, all right. Keep it locked, y'all. Yeah. Well, welcome back to the latest and greatest, biggest thing. Oh, God, I'm going to cry.
Man, that's a weird way to express your divorce through a real-time pool game with a Nintendo 3DS.
When Karen left, all I had was billiards. There's a new Suda game. So that means I'm going to go through my, biannual cycle of being like, this is it. This is going to be great.
This is
This is a free to play. I mean,
bring
you're
us
not gonna
back
like
to
this
Killer
one.
So
7.
like I'm like a really really big fan of like some of his earlier stuff.
Killer
Obviously,
7
like, Killer
and
7,
No More Heroes.
No More Heroes is a
Yeah.
is a blast. I even like his weirder stuff like Flower, Sun and Rain, which was a PS1 game
Yeah.
that got ported. I think it got ported to maybe DS and PSP.
Yeah.
You're only friends with Max because you pretend he's Travis Touchdown.
Yeah, because he's real life Travis Touchdown.
Yeah, it's true.
He's definitely a touchdown. And then No More Heroes 2.
Wow, I just got that.
No More Heroes 2 is where it started to come off the rails a little bit for me. Like, I feel like there was a lot of cool stuff in that game, but Suda, his games really shine when it's like taking a very specific game concept, sticking to it, and letting the kind of style, like, kind of fly through it. You look at something like No More Heroes, and he was like, I'm going to make a GTA game with no sand in the sandbox. And like there were cool little 8-bit mini games in it, and the combat's fun, and the characters are awesome. But ultimately, they don't really come together. I felt the same way about Lollipop Chainsaw. I felt the same way about Shadows of the Damned.
Oh yeah, that was the Mikami game along with Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, which is like there's. Are we talking about
Akira Yamaoka?
Yeah.
Wrong Akira.
And like there's just like there's a lot of good idea in terms of music and style and presentation. Like he got this whole like sort of like goth / punk rock aesthetic, mixes it with 8-bit and then like bikini boobs and just goes out and lets you fight a bunch of stuff with cool laser swords. Like I'm all into that. Like Travis Touchdown's entire thing was that he bought a lightsaber off of eBay and he just went out and fought like Yakuza. Like that's awesome.
And then came back to his toilet basically.
Yeah, but like I don't know. So I keep doing that thing, and this new game is basically everything we've seen from it, from the concept art. It's death with a skateboard, which I'm like, okay, I dig it. Like he's got the sickle and then a cool skateboard in the other arm, and I'm like, so I don't really know what this game is yet. I'm open to it. I'm kind of amazed that like I mean this in the nicest way possible, but I'm kind of amazed that he still consistently gets work because I don't know how well his games have sold. Like I have a feeling Lollipop Chainsaw did all right.
Yeah.
Shadows of the Damned probably did okay, but like all in all, like
I think he makes his games on the cheap.
you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only about his team's relatively small. Yeah.
So yeah, do we know like what platforms or anything about this game yet?
Yeah, it's coming to, I believe, PC and PS4.
Okay.
It's going to be free to play, but this is going to be our first time we go hands on. It's
free to play?
Yeah. It's the first time
Yeah.
we've seen this game in like 2 years, so we'll be playing it for like an hour at PAX. So
Awesome.
I guess we'll report back.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Do we have anything cool to talk about, you guys? Anything special?
No, how's everybody
What?
doing?
I'm doing really well.
Weird. I don't know what that was.
So where do we land on?
Sometimes I just say really like just I don't.
I like it.
Where do we land on PS4.5? Is everyone going to get one? Like we'll get into this. So I'll run to one of the questions here. But Brian Allen Davis says, should we get 50% trade-in value if we trade in our perfectly good PS4s for this BS 4.5?
Well, I know how you feel about it.
Well, we know how he feels. He might have meant
no.
PS.
You should
Hey,
not
I'm also going to tell
contribute.
you, the second PS 4.5 gets announced, the value of a PS4 is going to go way down
Yeah.
for trading.
Also, no, they don't owe you. I mean, no. I think honestly, like, it would be nice if they did something like that, but they don't owe you that.
You go on Craigslist, you might get 50%, but if
Yeah.
you go to GameStop, damn it.
Yeah.
if you go to
that's the
GameSpot,
whole-
you won't get anything.
I mean, dude, if you don't own a PS4 yet, after the Neo comes out, like you'll be able to get like a $200 used PS4, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That means more people get to play these fun games that we get to play.
Yeah.
So just run around and jump on the
like
stuff.
Persona 5.
Collect all those different frogs. Get that.
What
Isn't
game
that
has frogs?
PS3?
What's both?
Is it both?
Not in America. It will not be PS3
Yeah,
in
I will be
America.
amazed if it's PS3 in America. Yeah.
yeah. Got any more
Matt
cool-
Lubbock says favorite PS4 exclusive.
Right now, I'm.
Well, console exclusive or exclusive?
Yeah.
Because like my answer would be The Witness, but that's on PC.
Yeah, I think I would.
Bloodborne, for sure.
Yeah, Bloodborne
Yeah,
or
No question.
maybe Ratchet even.
I mean, I'd say like The Last of Us is backup, but it's not necessarily console exclusive. I mean, it's
On PS3, yeah.
obvious. I mean, the remastered one is, but
Yeah.
Bloodborne for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I'm
if
kind
you're
of
talking,
amazed.
yeah, Bloodborne, like it took what 3 Souls games for me to care, and then Bloodborne, like World 4, I guess. Bloodborne was the one where I finally cared, and like I'm playing Dark Souls 3 very slowly and badly, but like
Yeah.
Bloodborne, I don't know what it is about it, but it just was accessible to me for the first time in a way. Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2
I think
weren't.
it's just fast enough to appeal to like the action game enthusiast while still sort of playing into the same sort of slow, methodical stuff that people attach themselves to Dark Souls for.
I really
which is
want-
like. No, what do you say?
Oh, I was gonna say I really want Uncharted 4 to be my answer to this soon. Like I keep kind of semi forgetting that Uncharted 4 is actually coming out, and it's like,
So soon.
man, I want that game to be incredible. Like I want to feel about that game the way I felt when I finished The Last of Us for the first
So
time.
I'm gonna put a small secret here, and I shouldn't admit this because it's part of my job, but I stopped watching videos for that game. I stopped looking at screenshots for that game.
That's okay.
Trailers,
Yeah.
like I mean, no, I mean it's sort of like legally my job to come in
No.
and consume all
It's
that.
like how
information.
Jose got spoiled on Better Call Saul today because he had to write that
You
article.
can track the bullet points of what's going on in these things, but
Yeah.
like you're doing yourself a favor by not watching continuous footage.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
have to,
I mean,
it's not
I
like you didn't have to
skimmed-
play it for a preview
Yeah.
event or anything.
No.
I skimmed through
no.
that last gameplay with the Jeep, and it looks awesome. But I didn't want to like solve any puzzles for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
wanted to just I want to go into that. And I want as much of that game to be new as possible.
I know.
So
I know. That's like very specifically going to be one of those like
I'm so excited
So-
about that
Yeah.
winch. That winch looks awesome.
We're not talking about the winch anymore.
Damn it, I want to talk about the winch.
Tim Ferreira sort of goes along with this. What's your video game first world problem? Example, having to change discs from game to game.
There's one out of every 3 times where I go to the PlayStation store and it just hangs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually load and it sits there and I'm like, oh God, and I have to restart my system. And it's like a few years ago, if I wanted to buy a game for PlayStation, I had to go to a real store.
Yeah.
And now every now and then, the thing doesn't load, and it'll be 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm a few drinks in, and I'm like, I'm trying to buy Bubble Bobble.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's charging. It's so stupid to complain about, but I never remember at the end of a long night of gaming to actually plug in my controller.
Do you use a little pluggy thing, or do you have a little cradle?
My TV, I just plug it into a USB. But my TV is really far away from my couch, so I have this psychotic series of extension cables leading from around the
which
room.
adds to the fact that your apartment is mostly empty, like Matthew McConaughey's in True Detective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you just got a crucifix and
I'm
a long
more of a George Clooney up in the air thing going on. Yeah,
tell yourself that.
whatever
Time
helps you
is a
sleep
flat
at night.
circle. You're gonna find those killers one of these days.
Charging, I just always forget to plug in my Vita, plug in my controllers.
I have a weird
which is still way better than batteries.
Yeah.
Between the consoles I have at home, the fact that I have different passwords on different consoles, and then having to log into stuff at work, I always forget what my passwords are for things.
Yeah.
And so it'll just be I have to constantly reset my PSN and my Xbox One password just because I always forget them. And then if I try to go into the eShop, I'm I haven't done this in a year.
Oh, I
don't know what any of this is.
My Xbox One updated the other day and asked me for my password.
Yeah.
And I just honestly just put the controller down and walked away for 10 full minutes before being I'm not ready to face this.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it.
I would love
in the ass.
if
It's also
controllers...
typing it in with a D-pad. And
I would love if controllers next generation had a touch,
like thumbprint?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
What's up?
Andrew, you can't say
Dan is slacking me and saying we have to be out in 5.
Okay, well, we can be out in 5. I was going to say... we got one of those just things that I love my fiance for is that shortly after we got the PS4 and a second controller because we were playing some stupid game, she's like, you know what? I'm tired of plugging these things in, and she just without saying anything just bought one of those little charging cradles.
Yeah,
and it is so nice.
Yeah, they're cool. I just don't like looking at those things. There's just it's just
they're so cumbersome.
So we're in the middle of rapid fire right now, which we're wrapping up soon.
We're wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up soon, which you can join in on by going to the Podcast Beyond Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/Podcast Beyond.
Oh, you nailed it.
And you can hit us up, or you can use the email beyond@ign.com, which we haven't checked in a while. We've gotten a ton of emails. I know I got a couple of tweets and messages from people why we don't fold more emails into the show. We'll get better at that. It's been kind of chaotic, but
this leads into the next thing, which is if you watch the show on YouTube, now the show and the breakouts aren't going to be on IGN's proper YouTube channel.
Yeah.
As of now, each podcast is going to have its own YouTube channel. So Beyond is now youtube.com/IGN Beyond. And you're going to be able to find breakouts on there. You're going to be able to find full episodes. And we're going to start doing, hopefully, weekly Let's Plays where we're going to be playing new games. We're going to be playing new PlayStation Plus games.
To hang out and have a good time instead of just talking about it in this room with awful plywood.
No, exactly. Maybe we'll bring back Essential 50 stuff. And then also I was sort of tossing around an idea with the letters of just doing full, maybe once a month episodes where we just come in here and just answer questions.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that.
It's off topic. It's not on the news, and we just throw it up on the
You guys just came back from Japan. I'd love to do a deeper dive on that down the line. But for now...
and you're about to go.
Yeah, especially when we can talk about what we did in Japan. Because people who like this show will care about that.
Yep. Do you have to bleep that?
You guys helped Shuhei Yoshida get rid of that deer. Philip Sandoval says, for the guys that went to Japan, how is the state of the Vita compared to America?
Better than the Xbox One, which is so far in the back corner of stores that it's behind PS2 games and PSP games.
We found PS1 games in that one store.
More prominent than Xbox One games.
It was weird. Vita honestly wasn't super prominent there either, though.
Yeah.
I think we did see... I would say
even on the trains and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, seriously,
I didn't see anyone playing Vita the whole time we were there.
I didn't see anyone playing
other than me.
Yeah.
And then also the weird thing in stores was there was a huge PS4 section and a huge PS3 section.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I would say Vita, Xbox One, Xbox 360, all of that was kind of relegated to the back of the store.
Mm-hmm. Do people play a lot of 3DS or iPhone games on the train? Or
I saw so many people playing iPhone games.
Yeah, totally.
Every train we took, there was someone, even older people. There were people playing mobile games.
When I went to Tokyo for TGS 2 years ago, I saw one person in 5 days, the first 5 days they were playing a Vita, and his name was Colin Moriarty.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
On that note, thank you guys so much for listening and for joining us. I hope we get to see you at PAX East.
Yeah. If you see us, honestly, come up and say hi to us.
If you see Marty, he loves Battletoads.
Don't do that.
So go
Don't
up into
do-
Marty
yep,
and
don't
say,
do
hey,
that.
how about those Battletoads? All
That's
the
how-
different toads that like to battle.
Bring
Do his voice. Go. Oh,
Yeah, do that. That's
I'm
the
gonna
call
bring
for.
a knife to PAX.
Wow.
I'm not gonna bring a knife to PAX.
So if you see a PAX Enforcer and you see Marty go, oh, he's got a knife. Oh.
Yep. And on that note, you can find us all on Twitter. That's a great way to track our goings on and our misbehavings. I'm Max Scoville. Marty is McBiggity with 2 G's and 2 T's. That's like a delicious snack meal, not like you're a Irish bigot, but you know.
The story behind McBiggity is really funny.
We're closing this episode weird.
Brian is Agent Bizzle.
That's right.
There was a weird little lag there, a little frame skip. And Goldfarb is Garfep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Farbarf.
Yeah, Gold Bar.
Jarfar.
Gold Bar. All right. Thank
Golden
you so
garbage.
much for joining us. I hope to see you all at PAX and beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond.
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 Stop.
Beyond.
Stop it.